we can say that we have a winner, mostly when it beats our control KPIs. That's a good sign, but it's not enough. Beating the control. I mean, we have to massively surpass the KPIs, like around 10-20% of better KPIs.
It's almost impossible to overestimate how important creative can be to mobile advertising, in fact, to any kind of advertising. Creative can make a horrible app even temporarily successful. It can make a so-so app do very well, and it can elevate an actually good app to the very top of the download charts. Welcome to Mobile Heroes Origin Stories, where we go in depth, 101, with mobile marketing experts. Last time, we talked about escaping creative ruts. Today, we're going to dive into creative metrics. Peggy, who are we chatting with today?
Well, we have another creative expert, John, so it's worth being here for the show. We have Lidia Perez, user acquisition specialist at Socialpoint. Lidia began her career in UA at From the Bench, a gaming startup. Along the way, evolved into ad monetization and into UA strategy, and she joined the Word Games team at Socialpoint, where she drives growth for Word Life, one of their very popular games, and oversees Socialpoint's creative testing framework and growth strategy. So she is the woman to ask about creative. And I'm
Hello.
not overselling you, Lidia. Welcome.
Super nice to meet you. I have watched a lot of your podcast, so yeah, it's super nice to be here. So thank you so much for having me.
Hey, it's our pleasure and it's our honor. And let's start here. How do you know when you found a winner, when some creative is just absolutely perfect?
Well, that's absolute perfect. Yeah. Okay, so here we can say that we have a winner, mostly when it beats our control KPIs. That's a good sign, but it's not enough. Beating the control. I mean, we have to massively surpass the KPIs, like around 10-20% of better KPIs. And apart from that, of course, we need to, this creative should be able to pick up a spend in the live environment profitably. So that would be a great winner. But I can tell you that sometimes we have had as well little winners. That means that sometimes it happens that we have creatives that have passed all the tests that we have in place, but suddenly when we put them into the live environment, it picks up some budget, but not enough to beat the control in this live environment. Then this could be, that's good, of course, not as good as could be a winner, but could be a temporary fix for that fatigue.
Mhm.
Is it sometimes tough because you may have some creative that knocks it out of the park for CTR, but for whatever reason, the ROAS or ROI isn't there?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it happens that that we have found an amazing creative in terms of, as you said, CTR. So with amazing CPI, but when we put it in the live environment, uh, maybe even when can pick up a spend because of this amazing CPI and CTR and install rate, suddenly we see that our retention and our ROI start to drop a lot. So
Mhm.
this is not a winner in the end, because we need like address a good balance between CPI and between retention as well. In that case, we would be speaking about a loser. And but when this happens, we have room to learn from it and try to improve the KPI that is not that is failing, that in this particular case that we are talking about, the KPI that we will need to fix would be retention. But at least we have a base to start with, to start working with.
Makes sense.
Makes sense. I also like very much that you think about the retention while you're thinking it early in the funnel as well. You know, a lot of companies, they think more about the monetization and not so much about the retention. Now you have a bit of a balance there, which is really interesting, but you still have to look at the metrics. So, you know, CTR, very top of funnel, CPI, we discussed, important, ROAS, critical, retention, also one on the list. So which ones matter most? You can have multiple choice if you wish.
Yeah. I would love to have amazing number for all of them, of course. But yeah, it's
Yes.
super difficult. So yeah, I would say that. Well, let's talk about the casual game with a hybrid business model. Uh, that's the case for work life. I would say that CPA could be a really good indication, a good proxy as a first indicator of success in the earlier stage of the testing process. But this is not all, as I told before. So we need an extra quality assurance. I mean, and that involves looking at the retention rate. In our case, retention rate they won, because when we have both KPIs, it's this will allow us to get a sustainable growth in the end. So from my point of view and in our experience, CPI and retention are the main ones. And
Mhm.
as an extra, the third one that I would like to mention is as well the spend, the spend speed, because this is critical for some partners, and because sometimes the algorithm doesn't like this creative, although it have good CPIs or CPI or retention, but the algorithm doesn't allocate the spend there, or is extremely slow. So this speed is something to take into account as well. So those three, I think I would say those three.
Okay. Limit yourself to 3. Of course, is Facebook a different case? I mean, does it require a bit of more of a custom approach?
In general, as a general rule, I would say that it depends more on the business model of the game instead
Mhm.
of the partner where you are testing. Because yeah, it could change a little bit if, for example, we are working with a hardcore game where in-app purchases are extremely important, and for example they don't have ad revenue, or if we talk about the game as World Life, for example, that is more ad revenue driven.
Mhm.
So it could vary depending on that, but I would say that in at the earlier stage of the creative testing, when you are checking CPIs, like the first feelings, the first numbers, it shouldn't vary too much, and even between different business models. But yeah, as I said, it not depends that much in terms of partners.
Okay, so very much on the objectives, type of
Exactly,
game, mechanics. Got it.
exactly, Peggy. Yeah, that's the
Mhm.
point.
So, last episode, we actually chatted with your colleague Danica, and she talked about systematizing serendipity. What's your
Yeah,
creative testing framework?
yeah. Wow, we have worked so much on that. So well, it's pretty extensive, but I will try to do it to explain to you briefly. Let's say if I achieve it. Well, I would say that our creative testing framework is mainly a data driven system, and numbers are the core of the strategy, and everybody is aware of that. But because it's not marketing only, the people involved, we have art department, product, and of course marketing. And another key point here is that we have well defined processes, such as, well, I think Danica mentioned last time our weekly meetings with strict agendas. We have delivery schedules that we have to meet. We have learning tracking tools, because we manage huge amount of information, and if we don't track it, it's extremely difficult to move forward and to learn from our mistakes or successes. Um, Above all, we have customized and automatic reporting as well as a supporting tool, readable for non-analyst and analyst people. We have
Nice.
visual clues, a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff here in our creative framework. And I would say that the main advantage of having such a structured machine, let's say that, is that it's easier to carry out a retrospective, basically, and identify the weak and the strong areas.
Mhm.
But still, creativity is key in our process as well, because our but the what changed is the way that we apply this creativity. Performance artists needs to use creativity to transform KPIs into winners, into creative winners.
Mhm.
Peggy, that's the first time I've heard in this context performance artists.
Yeah, I like that.
That's pretty interesting,
That
actually. I
is
mean,
very
we've
cool.
seen performative art in the art world, but performance artists in the marketing world, in the mobile world, that's kind of cool.
I really like that because it elevates, if you think about it, Sean, everything's down to the creative, it's down to the levers that you can push and pull. And this tells you really that it elevates the importance of the creative. And we now know that it's about performance, right?
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
not just
Exactly.
the creative, it really sort of seals that. And that's a lesson in itself.
Hmm. Hmm.
Mhm. Totally, totally. Yeah, and I think that this is a I like to call it performance artists, because in the end you have to get used to numbers as well to produce their work. But yeah, but they need creativity as well to interpret those numbers. And I think that this is a new role that is arising recently,
Mhm.
and this is great in this industry because new profiles. I mean, we need new profiles like uh, with very often, and this is amazing. Sometimes could be a little bit overwhelming, but it's amazing
Cool.
at the same time.
I think you could probably also sell that framework to someone, because you've now taken it into all of these different steps. These are the KPIs at this step. This is the creative process, deconstructed, right? Um,
Uh-huh.
I'd like to ask you, though, about the one question that you probably can't put in a chart, although John knows I'm a chart lover. Ideation. There's a little bit of your inspiration. There's the serendipity from Donica from our last show. I mean, how do you approach that?
Yeah, of course, we have kind of guidelines for the creative aviation, and we have. I would say that the key of the aviation process is the fact that we have prioritized the sources of this aviation. Let's say that. So for
Mhm,
sure, our KPIs is like the KPIs are is the king, basically, and KPIs based on life environment. So these learnings have the highest prio for us and for our art team to start producing new creatives. But of
mhm,
course, there are more sources of ideation. For example, competitor trends and even information that we get directly from our partners accounts managers, because every partner has nuances regarding the creatives that work better with them. So to have like a great relationship with them and to talk about creatives, it's super important. So um, having said that, I'm passing now to detail more the process. We have like weekly meetings with our performance artists, and then there we talk about the live results let's say, which are the creatives that are impacting very positively in our live campaigns. Okay, and then once we have that, those learnings, we put them in our tracking log, and then we move to the latest test results. What we have learned from the latest test results, um, and then all once we have this combo, our creative team has like a separate meeting with their brainstorming sessions to transform those learnings into into potential winners if we have if everything goes well. So this could be a good summary. But yeah, I think it's extremely important, and I couldn't highlight it more to structure and to prioritize your sources of ideation, because otherwise we fall in this thing of, I think that this is going to work because I like it a lot. Because I love this kind of skins, whatever. And this is very subjective, and we need facts, because otherwise we will be really lost. So that's why.
I love it. I love it. Very structured, still creative. I wonder if you ever have an artist that says, "This is a fact. I'm an artist and I know what's good and I'm going to do it." But maybe not. You do have, however, different budget levels for different types of things that you put together. You have some things that you allow, hey, total out of the box idea, whatever we can dream up, throw it out there and see what happens. You also have another swing, so to speak, of data-driven creative production, but you have different budget levels that you assign to those things. What are those levels and why do you have the difference?
Well, I think that this is super important, and yeah, to be efficient with our budget. Um, and in our particular case, John, I would say that it would be, the split would be between 80-20. Of course, 80 is for our smart ideation, and 20
Yes.
for the wild cards, out of the box creatives. I would say that. But I don't want to. This is not written in a stone. Let's say that, because uh, it's. I mean, we of course it's obvious that it's extremely difficult to find creative winners now. I mean, it's such a competitive market. So we need to produce a lot of creatives in order to increase the chances to find winners. So if we add the component, the random component here to the equation, we will be reducing our success rate a lot. And apart from that, the cost would be extremely expensive. So my recommendation comes now. If you have the resources, you have a lot of money, and your performance is extremely good at that point, you have this room to experiment more. Okay, and you don't have ad fatigue status. Okay, you can increase your wildcard budget. But even if you have the resources, and you can spend a lot of money because you have it, I think it's for the sake of efficiency, I wouldn't recommend it if you are suffering for performance and you are not meeting the targets at that time. You are suffering, or you see that you're suffering from ad fatigue, and soon you could be uh, suffering, not reaching your ROI targets. So you have the money, okay, but it's not your moment. It's not the momentum, not a good timing. Don't do it. And if you don't have the resources, I would say, okay, forget about wildcard creatives, and be smart, and be practical.
It sounds like you need to achieve a certain level of success, Peggy, before you can go out of the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, you nail it. Exactly.
It's very interesting though, because, having that wild card, that then becomes the way that sometimes that you can make something very successful when you're not looking at your competitors. It's interesting because it seems to say that if you're not successful already, you won't be able to necessarily invest in the wild card that would make you successful if you're not, John. So
Yeah,
A little bit of a
6 of
trap.
one, half a dozen of another, right? I mean,
Yeah.
because, I could see the point. Hey, follow the path, follow the KPIs, do the math, and create new stuff, and achieve a certain level, and do the wild card stuff and pull the Joker out of the deck, maybe, if you have the budget and the time to be able to do that. And I suspect for different organizations, they might not have the 80/20 that Socialpoint has. Maybe they're at 95/5. Maybe they're at
Mhm.
50/50. It depends on different organizations and their level of comfort with risk, I'm assuming.
Totally, totally. Yeah, I totally agree with that. You finally you know the your budget constrictions, and you know the risk that you can assume. So it's just about that.
So this is all laid out in your blog post over on your Mobile Heroes page. And in that, you also lay out how you track investment at all levels of the creative process. So you're always checking back with your KPIs, but you're
Mhm.
also checking with your budget. That's really interesting. Why are you doing that?
Because we have benchmarks that we have defined for every part of the of the test. So we have different phases in the test, and we have KPIs to measure. So if we don't track investment, we cannot calculate the math. We cannot have the KPIs. So uh, having a strong business intelligence behind, and having a strong analytics team here, it's extremely important. It's a great backup, because otherwise it's extremely difficult to succeed, I would say. And that's why, when, for example, I come from a small company, the resources that you have, for example, here at Social Point, are amazing. And this is why we can do this kind of things, this kind of frameworks to be able to measure everything. Because when you measure everything, and this is the magic of performance marketing,
Mhm.
you can identify what's wrong, where I'm failing, and then to attack directly to that. In the end, this saves a lot of money, but a lot of money. I mean, we're super focused on our daily routine, in our daily basis, and we forget to step back and to see the big picture, uh,
Mhm.
and to identify the needs that we have, and this is important to growth, and not to, because otherwise you end up in the chaos.
Yeah,
So yeah.
totally get
Ly-
it.
Lydia, that makes a lot of sense. And it reminds me, someone that Peggy and I interviewed, I think it was a couple months ago. And I think it was Kieran O'Leary from Rovio.
Okay.
And he
Excited.
said, sometimes you got to step back and take a look at the journey that you've walked, the path that you've walked.
Mhm.
And you sometimes you're stuck in, whether it's your process or your day-to-day grind or whatever it is, and you don't realize how far you've come, how amazing the job is that you've done. And that's another reason to look back. I'm sure though, Peggy, you'd love to live in that scenario. You have data, you have defined processes, you've got swim lanes, you know what to do. It's all
Frameworks.
pre-programmed.
I understand.
Frameworks.
I feel you, Peggy. I mean, I'm a lot like this. Like, I need process. I mean, I have a really analytic mindset, and it's good. I mean, John, I would say that the good is the balance. Address the balance, of course. So
What I
yeah.
love about your framework is it's about framework for creativity. So that in itself is quite an accomplishment to try and make that more systematic. And we talked about how you're also addressing that and saying, okay, this KPI, this investment. I want to unpack that a little bit, John, because I think that's a helpful blueprint for a number of marketers who are going to be trying to grapple with this. So can you maybe just divide that down briefly into the stages that matter? I mean, you can't say check everything, test everything, because you'll never get your work done, right? But there must be like a specific number of stages where it's like, that's where you need the reality check. That's where it needs to fit.
So first of all, we need to check if it is CPI viable, the creative that we are testing, and we need to assess the quality for sure. Have very clear the sources of ideation, not get lost, not get distracted by but your personal preferences. Track everything, track all your learnings. It's it could be as easier as create an Excel and put there everything that you are learning, and then prioritize those their learnings to start producing creatives. I think, and then and measure. I think this yeah, and keep iterating and iterating and iterating, because for example, we see our creatives as a block set. Let's say that a block set. So um, we our goal is to link those blocks, for example, intro, outro, mechanic, link those blocks to particular KPIs. For example, CTR, install rate, um, retention, and then the end goal is to build the perfect combination that is going to lead us to create a winner. Um,
Wonderful. Building blocks to success. Absolutely love it. Cool. Lydia, it has been such a pleasure chatting with you and learning a little bit more about your creative process, what works, and of course, performance artists. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been a total pleasure. So, and yeah, thank you for doing things so easy.
Absolutely, Lydia. I also want to thank you for making it understandable, taking something that's very sort of vague, the creative process, trying to put it into a system, giving us a framework, giving it some organization, a great help. Thank you.
Great, thank you, and have a good rest of the day.
Absolutely. And for everybody else, thank you for being with us. Check out the podcast on the Mobile Heroes website or on YouTube or on your favorite audio podcast player. If you're a mobile hero, hey, connect with us. Peggy's around. I'm around. We're in the metaverse. I mean, aren't you? If you're a mobile hero, we want to hear from you. Thanks and have a great day.